Yeah, we're pleased with the start. It is very much a starter for 10, and we're looking to build the range in conjunction with Tesco, and particularly in potential introduction of mince and diced product, which is where there's a lot more volume because that's more of an everyday purchase as opposed to the roasting joints, which are more of a weekend thing.
Because Tesco's stance seems to be that the shop would stock more dependent on demand, basically, right? So it was a case of uptake and play it by ear, really.
Yeah, we've got a business case that we're working on at the moment. We're working on the costings and sourcing the equipment, etc., that would be required. If we're going to go and do something, we have to set ourselves up properly to do it, and to unpack the mince and diced opportunity, we need some specific investment in equipment, and we need to set up a production line effectively to do that. So we're keen on doing it. It's something I'm aiming for us to have got in place through this middle of this year. It's also something that potentially we can roll out to other retailers on the island. So we took a conscious decision to try and get into Tesco as early as we could. We've also got some intentions to improve the way that the product is packaged that's in Tesco at the moment, and we could have waited and actually got something more like where we want to be long term. But actually, it was better to get in and start building the relationship and showing that we are making progress. So yeah, happy enough.
Improved in what way? To do with branding, or to do with the actual materials used, or cost effectiveness?
It's more the presentation of the meat, and one of the comments we've had has been around the appearance of a bit more blood on the product than perhaps some of the alternative products that Tesco's.
Because they will be judged against UK produce.
Yeah,
for the most part, won't they?
Absolutely, and everything we've done has been working in partnership with Tesco, so they're happy. But is there room for improvement? Yes, there is. But we need different material, and that needs to be planned in. So that's the approach we've taken, and there are more things that we can do to make it better.
Some of the concerns about the way that Manx meat was going to be marketed was to do with price differentials. Maybe some consumers worrying, perhaps because of economies of scale, that the price for comparable products might be a bit higher, trying to buy local. Mm-hmm. Is there much evidence of that, do you think?
Well, the pricing and the commercial arrangements have all been set between Isle of Man Meats and Tesco. When you, as a manufacturer, when you're working with a retailer, you need to be mindful of what selling price they're going to be able to achieve for the product. So,
an awful lot of consumers, whilst I'd perhaps like to believe otherwise, will be driven by price. Really, that's what it boils down to, isn't it?
Yeah, they will, and it's very tempting to effectively just discount your price in for any product or service, but that's no good if you've got a higher quality product. What we need to do is basically emphasise the benefits of the product and the quality, so that people know that if they are paying a little bit more for the Manx product, they are getting value for it, and why that's a little bit more. So we consciously don't want to compete with the cheapest products because they're not comparable on quality terms. We're positioned in the range with Tesco's at an appropriate point, but yes, people will be able to buy cheaper, and make no apology for that, because Isle of Man meat is not about cheap, poor quality. It's about good quality, value, but high provenance, low food miles, low use of antibiotics, etc., etc. And people need to be educated so that they know when they're buying food, it's not just meat, it's food generally, what they're getting and why one product is worth more than something else.
I believe there was a meeting just before Christmas with different stakeholders, no pun intended, about the prospect of expanding the range. You spoke a bit at the beginning of the chat about expanding the range of products that were going to be stocked in Tesco. How are those discussions going? Receptive? Or?
Yeah, very very positive. I mean, certainly, we've got a number of stakeholders in this. obviously Tesco are keen to grow the relationship with us. We're keen to do more because the more we can sell on Ireland, the better. The farming community are keen for us to build a relationship because again, it's very symbolic and is a good commercial opportunity, and ultimately the benefits that Isle of Man meats are able to achieve are passed back to the farming sector.
And I spoke about the price to the consumer, of course, but equally important is the amount of money in the producer's hand.
Yeah.
Do you think that Manx producers are happy with the arrangement that's in place? Have you had feedback from them?
One of the key planks of the strategy when we took over the meat plant was to get the price back to the farmer correct, and there's a phrase equivalency to the UK, and that was necessary, A, to secure supply, and B, to ensure that farmers on the island were receiving an appropriate return on their sales. So
you've said previously you felt that had happened to an extent, perhaps, and it was now more viable for farmers to kind of submit their produce on island rather than having it shipped away live.
Yeah,
is that right? For example,
there's no doubt that the destination of choice, particularly for lambs, is Isle of Man meats, and the challenge for us is developing our markets so that we can sell the product and our processing capacity to cope with the volume. So at the moment, there would be more farmers who would wish to supply Isle of Man meats than we're able to sell, and that's why relationships like Northgate Foods and Tesco's are so important to us. So yeah, I've got no doubts. We're using the same pricing methodology as we agreed right back at the start. So that's not an issue, and we're committed to making sure that the farmers as key stakeholders are getting a fair price back.
Just finally, what's the number one priority for 2020 for Isle of Man meats?
We want to continue to grow our markets both in the UK through Northgate and on Ireland, with not just Tesco but with our other retail and wholesale relationships, and from that everything else follows really.